thought this is good information. I don't want to miss it.
Okay, so we're
Yeah,
starting off with a
sorry.
question. We're starting off with a question from Lauren about the $1 trillion coin that they're proposing in the US to pay off their debts, which is really is no different than what they're doing now, only putting a different, yeah. They've been talking about this actually for probably close to a month, Lauren.
Oh, okay.
And really, it's just creating more fiat currency and just putting it in a different package. You understand? So,
Yep.
what would really fix the problem is if they would say the gold is now worth, and I don't know, the estimates are like way up there, like $80,000 an ounce. So the amount of gold held in the treasury of the US would equal the amount of currency that's out there circulating. That's one way they could really do it. Barb?
It's only going to be the rich guys that are going to be able to afford this currency.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what this whole course is about. It's about the transfer of wealth going from, the middle class to the top 1%.
Yeah, exactly.
If there was a chart came out just last week on the top 1% and how much their net worth has increased in the last 6 months.
It's staggering.
And Elon Musk, his net worth went up something like 34 billion in a week.
Yeah, we heard that. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's basically what this whole course is about, Barb, is about the transfer of wealth from the lower class and the middle class to the top 1%. And it's because they have these assets that will gain or hold value. And the people holding the fiat currency in their bank accounts and their wallets and under their mattress are going to be the ones that lose out.
But it's why we need to educate ourselves now
Yeah.
for what
So-
we can do, right?
So, yeah, so just to go back over what we talked about in episode 1 and 2. So that true wealth is time and freedom. And we talked about the difference between fiat currency, which is paper money, and real money, which would be gold and silver. I mean, they could make a platinum coin and put a value on it of $1 trillion, but that's still no different than producing a dollar bill, a piece of paper that says $1 trillion on it and putting that out. It doesn't make any difference. I think we talked about this one of the first 2 episodes about Zimbabwe. I don't own one, but I have friends that have $10 trillion notes from Zimbabwe dollars, and it wouldn't buy you a cup of coffee. So what this piece of paper says on it is absolutely meaningless. And it would be the same with the $1 trillion platinum coin. Yes, Amber?
So can you explain to us how they can put a value on Bitcoin and all these other online currencies that they've created out of nowhere? Like,
Great
I don't
question.
understand.
Excellent question. Bitcoin, the value of Bitcoin is derived from the confidence that people have in it storing its value. Bitcoin is the one thing that the government can't screw with. It's kind of like gold, except they manipulate the prices of gold and silver with the spot market. But Bitcoin creates its own value by supply and demand. And the government, well, not only the government, nobody in the world can increase or decrease the supply of Bitcoin. It is a fixed finite number, and therefore, a lot of the people that I listen to call it the most pristine collateral on the face of the planet right now. Does that make any sense to you?
It does, but how did it just show up out of the blue? Like, can I just all of a sudden create a currency called She-Coin and all of a sudden, like, I don't understand where this.
Yes,
is
you
coming from.
could.
Yes, you could. The trick is, how do you get it any value?
Yeah,
That was her question.
How do you get it any value? So will there be other things similar to Bitcoin? Probably. The one, the number 2 token to Bitcoin is Ethereum. But it's more of a tool. It's used in so many other applications on the blockchain. And I don't think we'll get into blockchain technology during this series of discussions, but it's extremely safe. It can't be corrupted, and that's why it has value. Whether the token or not has value is another question. So yes, you could create a coin. You could hire
I
a
like
programmer.
She-Coin. I like that a lot.
She-Coin them. That might go. That might be a good one. I don't know, but
I think it has to be she/her, doesn't it? Or Hershey. There you go, Hershey coin.
well, what you're asking, Amber, we kind of talked about it in episode 2, whereas about the confidence in the value of something. So right now, the confidence in paper money and fiat money is decreasing rapidly, while the confidence in the value of gold and silver hard assets, Bitcoin, some other cryptocurrencies are all increasing. Because people have confidence that the government can't mess with those. And having land like George and Barb, they're in a good position because they have that real estate, that pristine farming land. That's a great asset. Can it go down in price? Absolutely. But can it go to zero like fiat currency? No, never. It will always have
because everybody
value.
needs a place to live. Like everybody needs.
And everybody
Oh.
needs the corn
The
and
land.
soybeans and
What is produced off of that land. Okay.
they need their burger cow and everything else.
And they're not making any more land. They
Exactly.
That's right.
they can make
Exactly.
Good point.
money, but they can't make any more land.
So
It's
is that,
limited, the same as Bitcoin. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
is land and houses in the same category then?
yes and no. The farmland is better because it doesn't have the price fluctuations that residential does. But I mean, they'll still both go up and down. Residential right now, I think we're seeing, if we might talk about this a little later, but we're seeing the peak of the residential market right now. I don't know so much in Canada, but definitely in the US. The China real estate market's dropping like a brick. And I think it's going to be interesting the next, I would say, 6 months to watch the real estate market. But farmland's still going gangbusters, isn't it, George?
Well, they say it's back off a little bit. So,
Okay.
I mean, you have to see sales before you really know.
Yeah, Catherine was telling me about a sale of, what was that sale, Kath, of, what was it, like 100 acres or something that went, you were telling me about it.
Oh, my gosh, it was, just off Highway 74, is it, George? And 401.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
down along the
Yeah.
highway there.
110 acres went for 6.4 million.
Wow.
Sold for that. Not listed, sold.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I don't know.
Right.
I think
I
land
know.
around here is still about under 30,000.
Around 30,000.
Right around, but north of Woodstock, it's better because the land is better up there.
It's 35 to 40 up north of Woodstock.
And 20 years ago, what could you buy an acre for?
You're dating me.
20?
Oh, come on, you're more than 20 years old. Come on.
Yeah, 30 years ago, I guess I bought some for $300 an acre.
Whoa.
So capital gains are going to be huge for farmers going forward. Anybody that sells or doesn't have a good succession plan, it's going to be crazy what they
Yeah.
have to pay in capital gains and taxes. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep, there's always more to the picture, isn't there? And
Yeah.
do you mind if I answer Amber's question more, because I did research this?
Okay, go ahead.
When Bitcoin was established, Amber, it came out with a value of 0. Because what they were doing was they were formulating well, they had formulated, but they were introducing the blockchain and how it works and the whole concept of this. And, educating people on the token and the future value and the future, the way that it would work and how multifaceted it was, because it wasn't just for a token. It was also, blockchain is to record legal documents, real estate, financial, accounting, all of that. So there was a lot to introduce. So in the beginning, there weren't very many people that would take the time to try to understand it. So the coin was introduced at 0. And then as the confidence in it and the awareness grew, and then they started out at a penny and then let it grow from there.
I
And
see.
so that's how it started.
So who is they?
Well, the people that they don't even know still, it's just called, he's called Satoshi, and nobody knows.
Satoshi Nakamoto.
Nobody knows who he is. He has stayed totally anonymous. Whether he's a person or a group, they don't know.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
The first recorded Bitcoin transaction was a guy in Florida bought 2 pizzas at Papa John's for 10,000 Bitcoin.
Oh my God.
Yeah, imagine.
Well, I know you can buy Tesla, a Tesla car on Bitcoin.
Absolutely.
You can do a
That's
lot
just
of transactions on Bitcoin now. Yeah. Anyway, that's enough.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's becoming more popular. El Salvador now has Bitcoin as a bona fide currency there, and there's actually a little village in El Salvador they call it now Bitcoin Beach,
Oh,
and everything there, the hotel, the stores, the coffee shops, everybody accepts Bitcoin as payment. And it's quite an amazing experiment in how well it's accepted and being used.
wow. This is
So-
very fascinating.
Yeah, it is very fascinating.
Decimal point. Because if a Bitcoin's worth 60,000 and you want to spend $20, so it would be like 0.000 point.
Yep.
Something.
Yeah, so if you learn the terminology, the lingo of crypto, they break a Bitcoin down into 1/1,000,000th portions, and they call each 1/1,000,000th a Satoshi. So, if a cup of coffee might cost you, 6 Satoshis. So, yeah, it's no different, George, than if you walked around with a $1,000 bill in your wallet, and you had some 20s and 5s,
They don't make them anymore.
had some 20s,
He doesn't care.
and you had some 20s and 5s in your pocket, and you also had some loonies and toonies and a couple of quarters, and maybe a dime and a nickel. It's the same thing. You can break down that Bitcoin into much smaller pieces.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not like you carry around one big Bitcoin and then you take a little chunk off and give it to somebody or something like that. It's all, yeah, they've got it all figured out and it works quite well.
This was a great question, Amber.
Yeah,
Well, it's mind boggling. Like it's mind boggling to think that this thing just kind of blew up and
yeah.
but nobody's carrying a Bitcoin. Like it's all online. It's crypto. Like it's all
All online.
nobody's actually holding anything. Right.
Yeah.
It's not fiat.
The interesting thing, and one of the reasons it's taken off so well, is they're developing a whole new DeFi, decentralized finance platform on crypto, basically on the Ethereum platform. But what this enables people to do, like we're still involved a bit in our Costa Rica project. I'm sure most of you know about that, and occasionally send money down there. I can send them a Bitcoin transaction in a matter of seconds. If I need to go to my TD bank and send a wire, I got to jump in my car, drive for 45 minutes to Little Current, go there, stand in line, get with the bank manager, who last time they did a wire was several years ago. You know, half an hour later, the paperwork's done and I approve it and they send it. And 3 or 4 days later, he gets the money.
As long as they didn't write a number down wrong.
And it costs you big bucks.
Yeah,
$50 to send it. If I can send it, I can send him Bitcoin right now, like while we're talking, he would have it right now and he could transfer it to the local currency down there when he gets there. So the banking system is going to change. There is no doubt in my mind that this is all going to, take over. So we got some really interesting times coming, and a lot of this stuff is going to be covered in the later sessions of this series. So
Okay, good, good.
I think but keep writing down your questions, and as we get along, if you're not feeling comfortable with something, please. I like these discussions and to see what people are thinking and see what's not making sense, and and then we can clear it up before it gets too muddy. All right. Okay, everybody okay to start the video now? All right, here we go.
I'm in Singapore, and I'm about to go on stage in just a few minutes. I have not given a presentation for over a year now. I was in a little fender bender a while back, and so I took a little bit of time off. There's this sense of urgency now. The global dollar standard was put in place by a series of accidental events that were very fortunate for the United States because it gave us an advantage over the rest of the world. But our politicians over the past decade or so have abused this privilege as though it was their birthright. And now the rest of the world are turning their backs on the US dollar standard. This is going to cause a financial calamity the likes of which we've never seen before, and it's going to be devastating for most people. I don't want this to happen, but the damage has already been done. So I'm going around trying to alert people and show them how they can protect themselves and turn this into a great opportunity for themselves. There's always one result from what we are doing right now, expanding the currency supplies all over the planet. There's one result, and that is higher gold and silver prices. I love America, at least the America that the Founding Fathers created. And I'm hoping that people get interested in this so that they'll see that what made America great is the answer to our problems, to get back to free markets, free people, and sound money. Our own history proves that this is the road to maximum prosperity. We are entering a period of financial crisis that is the greatest the world has ever known. The wealth transfer that will take place during this decade is the greatest wealth transfer in history. Wealth is never destroyed, it is merely transferred, and that means that on the opposite side of every crisis, there is an opportunity. The great news is that all you have to do to turn this crisis into your great opportunity is to educate yourself. I believe that the best investment that you can make in your lifetime is your own education. Education on the history of money, education on finance, education on how the global economy works, education
on how all of these guys, the central bankers, the stock market, how they can cheat you, how they can scam you. If you learn what is going on and how the financial world works, you can put yourself on the correct side of this wealth transfer. Winston Churchill once said that the further you look into the past, the further that you can see into the future. This program is all about creating your own crystal ball, being able to gaze into the future, being able to change this crisis, the greatest crisis in the history of mankind, into your great opportunity. I was born in Salem, Oregon in 1956, and we moved to California when I was 4 years old in 1960. But when I went to school, it was obvious after just the fourth grade that there was something different with me. And by fifth grade, I was in remedial classes. And it turned out that I was dyslexic, and teachers were not taught to recognize that back then. I was always falling behind everyone else. When I would get a teacher that would lecture instead of making us read out of books, I would just absolutely excel. I suddenly went from the dumbest kid in class to the smartest kid in all of the periods of that class. But the result was that, after a while I was in every single remedial class, and I just couldn't take it. And in 10th grade, I dropped out, middle of 10th grade, and I've never been back to school. I often say that in every crisis there's an opportunity, and in this case, the handicap of dyslexia has also been a blessing. Because I couldn't learn out of books and I couldn't take notes, I just had to remember everything. And I have the ability to, my brain's wired a little bit differently. I have the ability to look at a chart today, and I know how it relates to a chart that I saw 10 years ago. But it was back in about the year 2000 when Steve Jobs of Apple introduced OS X. The world of books opened up to me, built right into the operating system, was a text-to-speech program. Now I could just have an assistant slice and scan my books and turn them into text and email me, and then all I have to do is highlight the text, press a button, and the computer reads to me.
People are turning to assets that will keep their value if prices rise. So much money has been pumped into the system that people are worried about inflation down the road, said Bruno S. Frey, professor of economics at the University of Zurich.
So dyslexia is no longer a problem. But what it's also done for me is I have the ability to explain complex things to people in a simple manner for some reason. And so I sort of made it my mission to try and wake up the middle class, to let them know how the monetary system works, to let them know that there is a major economic calamity coming sometime down the road, and it's most likely within this decade that we're in right now. The US dollar is about 60% of the value of all the currency on the planet, and more than half of the dollars reside outside the United States. The reason every country has US dollars is, first of all, that's what central banks use as a reserve currency. Second of all, oil is priced in dollars. So this is the world, and what you see here is that these are the countries that are avoiding the US dollar in trade. They're doing bilateral agreements where they'll either hold each other's currency and settle that way, or they're establishing, like right now, they're talking about a BRICS bank, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, having a bank that will do settlements between the countries directly without using the US dollar. These countries, they tried to avoid using the US dollar, like Iran tried, and we banned them from using SWIFT. How many here have made wire transfers before? So do you know what a SWIFT number is? It's a code that you plug in, and this SWIFT system is what transfers those dollars from one person's account to another person's account. Well, Iran decided that they were going to sell oil only in euros. They got banned from SWIFT. But there's countries right now coming up with a replacement for SWIFT.
and it doesn't use the dollar. It's the Sucre system. And Iraq started selling oil for euros. In Libya, they were talking about creating the gold dinar and selling oil for gold. So those are the countries that are trying to use something other than the dollar. Then we've got gold competing with currency. And there's a lot of talk around here about the gold dinar, and there's people that are actually using gold in some of the countries over here. And then in Utah has recognized gold and silver as money again. It's legal tender currency in the state of Utah in the United States. And then you've got physical gold accumulation. I'll show you later that China is accumulating an immense amount of gold, but all the countries with an up arrow, that's gold accumulation. Then we have gold repatriation. Germany has been asking for their gold back, and they're getting it. Venezuela has repatriated their gold from the Bank of England. And then if we put this on a timeline, here's the nails in the coffin for the dollar standard, and you will see that there's not a lot of time left. This is my evidence that I think is proof that the death of the dollar is coming, and it's coming shortly. Nixon ended Bretton Woods, and we went on the dollar standard. Then the first nail in the coffin is Iraq sells oil in euros. The crisis of 2008, and we added 1.25 trillion to our base money in the United States. As we add to the base currency, people get worried about inflation. They start rushing toward gold and silver. Iran ends oil sales in dollars, and they're taking commodities in trade for oil. They're taking, in Turkey, they take the local currency and then buy gold in Turkey and export the gold to Iran. So they're basically selling oil for gold. They do the same thing with India. QE2, quantitative easing, that's more currency printing in the United States. Libya, China and Russia bypassed the dollar. They did a bilateral trade agreement where they hold each other's currency, and they do direct debt settlement without having to wire transfer US dollars. Chinese president just recently said that the dollar as the world's reserve currency is a product of the past. Utah recognized silver and gold as money. China and Iran bypassed the US dollar with a bilateral trade agreement. Venezuela repatriates its gold. China and Japan trade directly. India and Japan bypass the US dollar. Russia and Iran trade directly. Iran sells India oil for rupees and commodities. China and Brazil trade directly. Swiss citizens demand gold repatriation. African countries ban the dollar. In Zambia, you can go to jail if you use US dollars. Quantitative easing number 3. They have announced at the Federal Reserve that they're starting with $40 billion of currency that they're creating each month, and now it jumps to $85 billion. That's more than $1 trillion a year. And remember, it took 200 years to go from no dollars to 825 billion, and now they're going to create $1 trillion every year. Iran trading energy for gold. Singapore removes tax on money. Germany repatriates 150 tons of gold from the New York Fed. The citizens of Netherlands demand gold repatriation. Ecuador repatriates part of its gold reserves. Austrian citizens demanding gold repatriation. China acknowledges fundamental market shortage of gold. And now, the Fed is increasing the rate of printing. I said from 40 to 85 billion every month, just over $1 trillion per year. So those are the nails in the coffin for the dollar standard. And if you noticed, they're all speeding up, and they're all happening right now. You don't have a whole lot of time. And if you wait too long, then the opportunity is gone.
It's going to fail. Why is the dollar sacrosanct? Why is it not going to happen to the US dollar? Well, it will. People think, oh no, it's high technology, or we have computers now, or the internet. And these are ridiculous arguments. The truth is, all fiat currencies have failed, and there's no reason why this one won't. What worries me again so much is that it's a global situation. And so it's going to cause problems on a global basis. And it's a trust breaking down. And you're already seeing the trust breaking down, as I said earlier, because you're seeing different countries exchange directly with each other's currency, circumventing the dollar. You're seeing that in oil. You're going to see it more and more. And people are just going to opt out of the dollar And you'll probably get to a point before the whole thing collapses entirely where the dollar is more or less used internally in the United States and externally is not used as much, because there'll be a lot of agreements made between nation states outside of the United States that will want to use each other's currency and not the dollar.
This isn't going to be pretty when it happens. I am not an end of worlder or a doomsday guy. All you can do is play the hand that you are dealt. If we go to a new monetary system, and I think it's absolutely inevitable, there's just too much energy built up in this one that has to release. It has to come crashing down somehow. When that happens, there's an enormous wealth transfer for people that are on one side of the bet or another. And people don't realize that whether they think they are making a bet or not, they are making the bet. They are involved. This wealth transfer affects everybody, whether you want to participate or not. If you're holding paper assets and paper currencies, you have bet one direction. If you're holding gold and physical assets, you've bet the opposite direction. So these are changes in Chinese holdings. They are accumulating gold, they are getting rid of US Treasury bonds. This is gold held in China. The green line is the cumulative gold, that's on this side, this scale. So it's gone from about 700 tons to almost 6,000 tons just since the year 2000. So this is their central bank holdings, this is their mine supply, but this is, and my researcher put all of this data together. You're the first people to see this. This is the amount of gold flowing through the Hong Kong exchange that goes into China. And the past couple of years here, they have ramped up their buying. They know that the dollar standard is coming to an end, and they are protecting themselves, and you're probably going to see gold-backed renminbi someday, the yuan. So this is an interesting chart. Changing global influence. So this is the correlation to this basket of currencies. This basket of currencies, if you add them all up, they're trading up or they're trading down. And this was pre-crisis, so it's before 2008. So this is from the International Monetary Fund, it's their data. So from 2005 to 2008, this is the correlation of, you know, if that basket of currencies was trading up, the dollar was probably doing about the same thing is what it's saying. The Chinese renminbi, a little less so. And then this is today. The US dollar is done for.
I don't think there's any question we're heading for a new monetary system. The question is, what will it consist of? You know, the four choices are sort of a world of multiple reserve currencies. And Barry Eichengreen, Berkeley, is the leading proponent of this, or leading scholar on this topic. The problem with that, and where I disagree with Eichengreen, is there's no anchor in that system. We did have multiple reserve currencies before in the 1920s. He's right about that, and it was sterling and the dollar, but they were both anchored to gold. And in the post-Bretton Woods world, since 1944, it's been one reserve currency, which is the anchor, and it was anchored to gold until 1971. Since then, the dollar has been detached from gold, but all the other currencies are still linked to the dollar. So at the end of the day, we've had an anchor of some kind. We've never had a world of multiple reserve currencies with no anchor. I'm not sure that's that stable. The SDR is the second choice. The SDR is a basket currency sponsored by the IMF. At least for the time being, it's also printed money. The IMF literally prints the SDRs and ships them out to the members. And their reserves go up, exactly the way the Fed creates money and bank reserves go up. But it's not backed by anything. Third choice is gold, some variation on the gold standard. And the fourth choice is what I call chaos, which is that nobody does anything. There's a lot of wishful thinking. There's a lot of denial. There's a lot of delay. And we get to the point where people just totally lose faith in paper currencies, go to hard assets, and we have a sequential collapse of paper currencies around the world, at which point governments will have to react with emergency measures. And that could include coercion, confiscation, various sorts of freezes on paper assets. It could be a lot of things in that scenario. So to me, it's multiple reserve currencies, SDRs, gold, or chaos. I favor gold, but I fear that we may get chaos.
I've talked about every 30 to 40 years, the world has a new monetary system. And the thing is that over the years, governments and the banks have basically screwed us more and more and more. And these new currency systems are always created by the same idiots that created the last one that fell apart. It's the big banks, it's the central banks, and it's governments that are creating these new systems each time. And each time, the system they come up with is a system that cheats the population more and enriches the government and the banks more. It's a system that transfers wealth at greater and greater speeds. You know, this one is going to fall apart just like all of the others. There's a difference this time, though. There's the internet. People are connected all over the world. Information is spreading, and people are getting educated. So I'm hoping that we go back to gold. Not a gold standard. Gold standards suck. I did a video on that. With a gold standard, there's supposed to be a certain amount of gold in the vaults for each unit of currency. In other words, it's a 1-to-1 ratio is the way it started. And then they print more receipts than gold that exists. So if we have gold standards, we're going to get scammed again. If we used gold and silver, if the public gets educated enough before all of this happens, if we went back to gold and silver, then governments can't scam us. It limits their ability to transfer wealth from the population to the government and to the banks. A lot of people say that you can't use gold and silver today because they're too heavy and bulky, and it's completely wrong. You could put gold and silver in a vault, and you could make payments to somebody by transferring ownership of nanograms, grams, or ounces of gold and silver from one person's account to another by means of a check, a credit card, or even your cell phone. If we go back to a gold-backed currency, gold-backed US dollar, at that point, I think the minimum scam that the US could get away with, which means the minimum number of dollars in existence that they could make convertible into gold, would be the dollars that are held in foreign central banks. That would be similar to the Bretton Woods system that we had from 1944 to 71. Well, I did some analysis on this when I was writing the book back in 2005, and back then it required $20,000 an ounce gold for the Treasury to have enough gold to cover those dollars, or the New York Fed, actually. And if they were going to back all of the dollars, you're talking gold measured in the hundreds of thousands of dollars per ounce. There just isn't that much gold, and there's a whole lot of currency. We keep on printing it every minute of every day. This is gold and how it accounts for a currency supply. This is our base money in the United States, which was gold back here from 1900 until the Federal Reserve. The amount of currency in circulation in gold were the same. And then we established the Federal Reserve, and we inflated for World War I, and we had more currency in circulation than we had gold to back it. There were some bank runs in the 30s. Then Roosevelt unpegged the dollar from gold, and gold's value rose from $20 an ounce to $35 an ounce. And when it did, the value of the gold held at the US Treasury rose to meet the value of all the currency that was printed in the meantime. Here's the same chart again, but now I'm taking it out to 1971. And what you see is these gold inflows during World War I. During World War II, it's another 117% gold increase. This is what made the United States a superpower. It's all financial. It isn't our war machine necessarily. It's all the gold inflows that we got because everybody else was at war and we were isolated from it. And they had to pay us for all their consumer goods and so on. And then we jumped into the war and we inflated. And then in about 1959, countries started figuring out that we didn't have all the gold. You know, we were printing more dollars than gold that we had to back it. And under the Bretton Woods system, they could go to the New York Fed and turn in their dollars for gold at $35 per ounce. Only foreign central banks. Individuals couldn't do that. So gold started flowing out, and the U.S. lost 50% of its gold from 59 to 71. And in the meantime, we kept on printing currency. If this had continued until it got down to zero, if there was one more dollar out there that laid claim to gold, that came in and said, we want our gold for a currency, and there was no gold to back it up, the entire world monetary system would have come crashing down. So Nixon had to take us off of the Bretton Woods system, the last vestiges of the gold standard in August 15th of 71. So here's the same chart again. There's the first chart and the second chart to 71, and now I'm taking it out to 85, and I'm adding a second line here. How many people would agree that credit cards are replacing cash in circulation? Yeah, credit cards, you use your credit card more and more every year, right? You use cash less and less. Well, this is outstanding credit card balances. It's called Revolving Credit Outstanding is the name of the chart that you get from the Federal Reserve. When you charge something on a credit card, you create currency. The bank didn't actually loan you anything. They invented numbers, and then they have the gall to charge you interest if you don't pay those numbers back on time. So the thing is that the merchant that you're paying, the restaurant or the grocery store, that merchant's checking account can't tell the difference between the credit dollars that you created or the cash dollars that you pay them. So to that merchant's checking account, it all looks the same. And those dollars that you created stay in circulation until somebody saves them up and pays down credit card debt. So unpaid credit card balances I include as part of the cash in circulation. And in 1971, Nixon took us off the gold standard, and gold became a freely traded separate commodity / money, and it did an accounting of the currency supply. There was quite a while here where we could have gone back on the gold standard. The value of the gold at the Treasury exceeded all the dollars printed from George Washington to Jimmy Carter. And for a week or so, a couple of weeks, it exceeded base money plus outstanding revolving credit. So here's the same chart again. That was to 1985, and now I'm going to take it out to today. And so there's that 1980 peak where it shot past base money and base money plus outstanding revolving credit. And then we get to the crisis of 08. And Ben Bernanke, oh, by the way, instead of billions, we're now measuring in trillions. So we started in millions, and then it went to billions, and now it's trillions. So we did the bailouts and all the quantitative easings, and that's what the currency supply looks like today. And then they announced quantitative easing 3, which is that 85 billion a month that they're creating, and they think they're going to have to do it until about 2015. So here's the projection for gold covering the currency supply today would be $13,400 per ounce gold, for history to repeat and for gold to do the same thing that it did in 1934 and in 1980. And believe me, it shocked people in the 1970s. When gold was $35 an ounce and Nixon took us off the Bretton Woods system, all the economists were predicting that gold was going to go down because now there was going to be no more monetary demand for it. Anybody that said gold was going to go to $100 was considered an absolute lunatic, and it went to 850. It rose 24 times its price. Well, when I wrote my book, we were right here with base money. So base money plus outstanding revolving credit. It took about $6,000 an ounce for history to repeat. Today it takes $13,400, and if you include the same overshoot, remember in 1980 it didn't just cover base money, but it shot past it. $24,000 an ounce gold is what it would require to meet that. Except the Fed has announced that they're going to keep on printing currency until there's lower unemployment and the economy gets back on track. And they think till 2015. So the projected price, according to the Fed and history repeating, if the Fed does this and then history repeats and gold, the public gets afraid of what the Federal Reserve is doing, and they rush toward gold and silver to protect their purchasing power, gold would have to rise from there to way up here, and that is $26,000 per ounce gold to cover. If it does the same overshoot, we're talking about $47,000 an ounce gold. Now, I don't even like to measure gold in dollars. If you measure it in a price doesn't mean anything. It's the value. How much can you buy with the proceeds? If we have deflation and some of this currency evaporates, because it's all just numbers that they type into a computer these days, if we have deflation, maybe gold peaks at $3,000 an ounce and the currency supply collapses to way down here somewhere, and the Dow is at 1,500. That means gold will still be double the Dow. You're still going to get 14 times more paper assets one day than you can buy today with them. And it's probably only a couple of years left that this is going to take, as you saw by how the nails in the coffin of the dollar standard, how they're speeding up. If we have big inflation and the Dow goes to 30,000, maybe gold will be 60,000 an ounce. And if we have hyperinflation, the Dow would be 30 trillion and gold would be 60 trillion. It doesn't matter. In any case, gold would buy you 14 times more paper assets than it does today. So these are the global assets. Here's the bond market. Here's the stock market. This is the value of real estate on the planet. And these are bank deposits, and there's gold. Now, that little slice of the pie is going to get a lot bigger in just the next few years, and it's not going to do it by a whole bunch more gold just appearing. It's going to do it by the price of other assets going down, or at least their value going down, and the value of gold going up. So the price of gold will change. That piece of the pie is going to grow. It was a lot bigger back in 1980 when gold was at $850. It's going to get a lot bigger today again, but today, as you've seen, it requires far, far higher prices. So, the death of the dollar standard. How many people here believe that I'm sort of predicting what's going on in the future here? You can see that there's a new world monetary system coming. It happens every 30 to 40 years, except this time, instead of a baby step off of gold, we've got to go from nothing back to something. It's going to be a worldwide convulsion, the scale of which has never been seen before.
At the end of the day, the fundamental driver of gold, it's not so much that gold's in a bull market, it's more the dollar's in a bear market. And people say, well, how high can gold go? And my answer is, well, how low can the dollar go? The answer is the dollar can go to zero. If you divide any number by zero, the answer is infinity. So gold can go to infinity if the dollar goes to zero. Now, in the real world, something else will happen. It's not that gold becomes worth infinite number of dollars. It's more the case that the dollar just falls off the stage. The dollar gets the hook, so to speak. And you'll count gold in dollars to 5,000 to 10,000 at some point, but there will come a time when you won't count gold in dollars anymore because dollars won't count. People won't want dollars.
There is so much opportunity in crisis, it is absolutely extraordinary. That's just not me saying that, that's just history. You read any amount of history, and I don't mean last week, I mean real history. You know, in times of crisis, it's when huge fortunes were made. Times of crisis, it's when human beings create and develop newest technologies and newest science and new medicines. In times of crisis, there's so much opportunity as long as you can remain calm, get educated, be resourceful. The challenge for most people is that in crisis, they go into crisis mode, which means they go into scarcity, they go into lack, they go into blame, and none of those emotions are resourceful for helping you solve whatever challenge is in front of you.
I believe that this is probably the greatest opportunity of anyone's lifetime. There has never been a situation where everything came together just like this. This is the first time in history where all the world's currencies are just fiat currencies backed by nothing. And if what I think is going to happen happens, this is the greatest wealth transfer in history. It's the greatest opportunity, and it'll never happen in our lifetimes again.
So now we've learned the following hidden secrets of money. There is a global loss of confidence in the US dollar that is accelerating rapidly. The change to a new monetary system is inevitable and will most likely be chaotic. Gold standards do not work over long periods of time, but gold itself does. The public contributes to the massive amounts of currency creation by using credit cards and signing loans. Gold has already accounted for the expansion of US dollars twice in the last century and may likely do so again.
So that's it for this episode. I thank you for watching and I hope you enjoyed it. I know I threw around a bunch of astronomical prices for gold someday in the future, but it isn't the price measured in dollars, it's how much is its value, what is it worth, how much stuff can it purchase. The price measured in dollars, or any currency for that matter, is just a bunch of numbers, and it really doesn't mean anything. There are numbers that are created by the world's central banks, by the commercial bank system, and we're forced to transact in these currencies. But in our next episode, we're going to clear away the smoke screen of national currencies and show you how the world monetary system really works and how all national currencies have to continue losing value. It is not possible for them to maintain purchasing power over any reasonable period of time. As for the golden nails in the dollar's coffin, it's only been a short while since we filmed the presentation in Singapore, and already there are more of them. So for an update, visit hiddensecretsofmoney.com, and in your free information toolkit, there's an exclusive presentation on the latest developments of the golden nails in the dollar's coffin. Now, I know this episode was kind of serious and it might have you upset right now, but believe me, it's not all doom and gloom. As I've said many, many times before, there are these brief moments in history where the safest asset class, the safe haven investment for the last 5,000 years, also becomes the asset class that has the greatest potential gains in purchasing power, and I have bet my life on it. First, I became an investor back in 2002, and then I started telling everybody about it. I started warning them what was going to happen with the world economy and how to protect themselves, and I made it my mission to educate as many as I could. So in 2005, I wrote my book, and then I gave people a means to protect themselves and opened up goldsilver.com. I believe that my team and I have created the world's best precious metals dealership, because we don't just sell gold and silver, we are gold and silver investors. And what we want to do is help you understand how to get through what is coming, to protect yourself, and to turn all of these bad things around to your benefit. So if you decide that precious metals are for you, please visit goldsilver.com. We'd love the opportunity to become your dealer because we feel that we are more than a dealer. We're a partner with you, and we're on the same side of the fence as you. So thank you very much. Good luck. We'll see you at the exclusive presentation at hiddensecretsofmoney.com. Thanks. Do you think this is a man in the lifeboat situation?
Let me ask you this. If you knew the Titanic was going to sink and you were on the Titanic, you know there's going to be a lifeboat situation coming up soon. Would you like lifeboats available? That's right. Would you like to get in the lifeboat early, get a nice seat, maybe close to the water, maybe close to the food supply, right there in the middle, nice and comfy? Or you want to be one of the last ones on the boat and you're jockeying for position, you have to throw a kid out to make room for you. Yeah, so lifeboat situation, it depends how you like your accommodations on the lifeboat is whether you should be making your way towards it right now. And I will be edging my way towards it right now.
Mike Maloney's Hidden Secrets of Money is made possible by the client.
That is hilarious. There was no food supply on the lifeboats.
Okay, but my mom and I went to buy some silver on the weekend, and the guys that Larry and Catherine suggested on here in London, they were so good, by the way, very knowledgeable and really, really friendly and patient in terms of explaining stuff, but they didn't have a lot of silver left. There's been a real run on silver and gold because those videos that we've been watching took place before COVID. And guess what COVID's doing? Yeah, it's making it worse. So Larry, you're on mute. You gotta come off mute to teach us more.
Hi, Hannah.
Yeah, so just a couple of things to sum up here is I think you all understand that gold holds its value, whereas paper currency decreases. And just comparing an ounce of gold to a dollar value right now doesn't matter. I think I might have mentioned this before, but if you go back to the 1700s, a man could buy a nice suit of clothes with an ounce of gold. And in the 1800s, a nice suit of clothes with an ounce of gold. And today you can buy a nice suit of clothes with an ounce of gold. But if you took, let's say, well, an ounce of gold back in the 1700s was $10 in their money. If you had $10 of that currency that was available then, you get nothing for it, zero. It's worthless, right? But the gold still buys you a suit of clothes. So that's the really important thing to catch here. And the other thing is how the banking system and the Federal Reserve in the US is basically screwing everybody over. There was a famous quote from Henry Ford where he said, if the general public knew how the Federal Reserve and the banking system worked, there would be instant riots and overthrow of the government. Yeah, and so that was a guy who, when he found out, went, oh my God.
That's next week.
That's next week. Here we go. So any questions on the video we watched tonight? Amber, you're muted.
I really don't have a question about the video per se, but Lauren had a comment there that she said that there's very little silver to purchase right now at this moment. So what do you have to say about that? What comment would you make?
It doesn't mean there isn't any.
I know that these guys, I know that these guys, you can put an order in with them if you'd like something. You can say, I'd like 10 1-ounce coins of silver, or whatever, and they'll call you when they get it in. I have purchased over the years from victoriabullionexchange.com, and you just do a transaction. There's several ways you can transfer the money to them, and then they mail it to you in an insured package.
Denise.
Yeah.
Denise.
The gal we deal with is named Denise, and she's very accommodating. And if they don't have it, they'll tell you when they think it's coming in, and they'll send it to you.
Okay.
Or they call you for a
Supply
bid.
and demand.
Right.
Supply and demand, yeah, and there are premiums on it. So let's say the spot price of silver right now, let's say it's $30 Canadian. You're probably going to pay somewhere between, I would guess right now, $35 and $38 for that $30 piece of silver. There is a fee, let's say, but then usually when you go to sell it, you get that back anyway. So it's, it's not a big deal. Don't even think about that. Think about having something that's not going to lose its value over time and will never go to zero, whereas the paper money can go to zero. And gold and silver are just the easy things to do. There are other things you can put your money into that have the same effect. But for me personally, the easiest is gold and silver. And it's the thing that's more than likely going to be used as money, especially in times of crisis. All right.
Amber, it wasn't that the place Mom and I went to didn't have any. It's just that they didn't have as much as they typically carry.
I see.
Yeah. Barb, you had your hand up?
Oh, Amber.
Oh.
I was having trouble. Some of the speakers were so fast in this last section that I was having trouble taking it in and understanding it.
Okay.
I'm gonna re-listen to this again and see if I can pick out the parts that I had trouble understanding. I found that with the price of gold escalating the way it did, where are we going to come to a mean?
Yeah.
That mean, that balance, or this is for me where I'm not sure whether I'm on board with all of this, because somewhere along the line, there has to come a point where the dollars and the gold have to come to a level line.
No, I don't think they do. And the reason why I say that is because the dollar as we know it is coming to an end. So there's what they're talking about, what most of the economists and the world leaders are talking about right now is something they call the Great Reset, where the US dollar will no longer be the reserve currency, and they're going to come out with a whole new system. So basically that dollar is going to become, and everybody's dollar, Canadian dollar, US dollars, the Spanish liras, the British pounds are all going to become basically worthless. So the gold will be revalued in accordance to whatever this new currency is. And that's why it's a store of wealth, because it will transfer from one financial system to the next financial system to the next financial system and still have value.
Okay, I understand that. I understand what you're saying. But with all the people that have put all their savings into the bank, they're going to get paid so much on the dollar. So without having huge losses for all these people that have got all this money in the bank, I'm thinking about my parents. I'm thinking about after the Second World War, how it was all kind of just, they lost so much. They might have had $5,000 in the bank and ended up with $50 in the bank.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, what's going to happen? It's going to be a collapse of everybody's lifestyle, everybody's way of living, everybody. So
That should be tough.
I know, but how can that is that going to be allowed to happen?
It is happening in other parts of the world right now, Barb. Venezuela, Brazil, Lebanon, Turkey, they're all experiencing hyperinflation. In Venezuela right now, when Mike, in the video, Mike talked about Venezuela, but this video was made back in 2013. Since then, when Venezuela was repatriating their gold, but since then, they have gone into a hyperinflation state, and their money is absolutely, their paper money, their fiat currency is absolutely worthless. And people down there are buying things now in flecks and pieces of gold. The paper currency is you can't buy a cup of coffee with a 10,000 peso note or whatever it is they use in Argentina. I think it's lira down there too.
I think it's lira.
And it's worthless. So what happens is the paper money reverts to zero, but the gold maintains purchasing power. So the important thing I think to think about here is not the value of an asset to dollars. What we're talking about here is maintaining your purchasing power. It's kind of like, Barb, your land today is worth $100,000. Your land in 5 years from now, when there's a new financial system, will be worth maybe 50,000 of SDRs, which are, it's called special drawing rights, which is the International Monetary Fund currency. Anyway, it's maintaining your purchasing power is what you need to wrap your mind around. So whatever will keep its value, or at least a high percentage of its value, is what you want to be in. And less and less paper currency. Everybody needs paper currency right now to work. You have to pay your bills. You get paid from your job or your suppliers with paper currency. George, you have a question?
Well, I was thinking Barb needs to realize that, like, how many dollars is your bill worth, the one you have?
Oh, the post Second World War Deutschmark. My dad would get paid. My mother would run to the grocery store to buy groceries before it was devaluated again.
That's hyperinflation.
Yeah. So a $10,000 Deutschmark was worth like 50 cents at the end of the day.
Yes.
Or nothing. Yeah.
So
And that could happen here. That could
That's what we're
happen in
saying,
Canada.
Barb.
That could happen in the US. There's already signs of it happening in the US.
So Barb's
Amber?
saying that can't happen, but it did happen in Germany.
Yeah, but it was post-war. We're not post-war.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, but we're not post-war.
But they're created because of the same circumstances, Barb, where the governments debase the currency by creating too much currency in relation to the goods and services that are provided. So
Yeah, and I understand that. I understand the fact that money is being printed crazy, over the top. And I understand that so many people are living in credit deficit balances. I just feel and you know, last week you talked about the spirituality, all of this, and that you were having trouble with seeing the spirituality in all of this.
Yeah.
And I feel that somewhere in all of this, something has to happen in order to bring the best of what there is in this world to the top of this financial problem that we're listening to and that we're talking about. So I really feel that there are people, good people out there that are holding us and are holding our countries in the best and the highest. And I feel that I know, and I've been listening and I understand what you're saying, Larry, but there has to be something over and above that has to bring out the best in people. People like Elon Musk and people like Gates and Suttenberg, or all these people that have so much money, that I really have a passion about this, that we're not going to go down this path. And I hope I hope that works. I hope that that's right, because I believe that this isn't going to be the end of this. I've been writing notes and I read them after our meetings, and then, you know, like this is our third meeting, and I'm feeling like there's really got to be something else in all of this.
Okay.
And apparently in 2008, it was something the same thing. You know, I dropped $500,000 on that deal, and nobody helped me out.
Yeah.
You know, nobody come in and said, "Oh, here's your $500,000. Too bad, fella."
Yeah. Yeah, it's Barb, I'm with you. I'm hoping everything gets worked out and they figure out at least the brightest and the greatest people that actually have the welfare of the people in mind when they make these decisions. I hope that all comes to fruition. I'm just talking about being prepared in case it doesn't. And there will be a return to common sense and treating your neighbor with respect and sharing the wealth, Barb. That I think it will happen, but we might need to go through a phase, a transition phase. It's going to be tough. I hope that's avoidable, but you know, maybe it isn't.
we were brought up in a society and in a heritage that your neighbor was your best asset.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
that's not just rural, that's not just farming community, that is everybody on the planet.
Yeah,
Well, that may still happen, Barb, but it may be in a different way. Because, you know, I've lived in a lot of places and I've lived in several of those and never even knew who my neighbors were.
Yeah.
So, you know, things have definitely changed and we're in for a huge change in the next few years. That video was made in 2013 and you could see it ramping up then. And now that all this money is being printed, which isn't even really, it's not even being printed, it's just digitally being done. So it's so unreal that's why we're just so committed to helping people understand that we can't think in dollars anymore. We have to think in value, in purchasing power. And yes, it can happen again, what happened to your parents. It's not just from wartime. It can happen from all these SOBs in the position to control all of this, to destroy it. And that's what's happening. I mean, when that guy from the Federal Reserve Board gets up to a podium, I just want to throw up because he's lying. He's you know, he's just being so dishonest with the world. Either that or he's just highly incompetent at what he does.
I don't think so.
I can't think of his name, but
Jay Powell.
Jay Powell. So the system almost has to collapse, Barb, in order for the good people, you know, the people that want the best for everyone, not just themselves, for us to recreate a system that works. If we end up having 20 or 25 people live with us in this house, we're okay with that. We'll get through this. We will all get through this. Your parents got through it. My parents got through it. We will definitely get through it. But yes, it can happen. It's not to sit and live in fear of that. It's to prepare and say, okay, well, I know that like this is where we are right now. We're good. We are good. We're diversified. We're prepared. We've done the mindset change of not looking at what we have in money anymore, but looking at what we have in stored wealth. And it may be a lot, it may be a little, but knowing that you have something that they can't take away from you,
yeah,
that's the key to all of this.
It sounds like a system of survival.
Well, it may be,
Yeah.
but if we do it spiritually together, we will do it in a higher consciousness and we will see the gifts and the blessings and the true spirit of all of this. And that's what we'll recreate. If we recreate it with the same spirit and the same consciousness that created this, it was all for naught.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a wonderful, huge, big reason for this to happen.
yeah. Amber, you've had your hand up for a while. Did we talk over your question there, sweetie?
I'm confused now. Okay, so my question had something to do with investors. As an investor, I'm helping other people buy property.
Yeah.
Does that mean then that as an investor, I'm going to lose everything? Because I've been investing, I've been helping others buy property. I haven't been buying my own property.
Are you talking more along the lines of REITs and that sort of thing? Real estate, a real estate
Yeah.
investment trust and that sort of thing?
I've been investing in mortgages and private loans and stuff like that. So I've been exchanging money for somebody else to be able to purchase property.
Okay, but
And of course, then that's where my living comes from.
but the backing on that investment that you have is the real estate, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you are protected up to a certain point. Now, if the real estate dropped in value, the overall value of your investment will drop also, but it won't go to zero like fiat currency will. Your property will always be worth something. So whether your name is on the title right now, well, as a holder of the mortgage, your name would be on it. So,
Or your group.
Yeah. if you're investing through a group, so you would be protected. Yeah, to a certain degree anyway.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say look at that and maybe think if you might want to diversify a little bit. I don't know. Depending on
That's
how
where
much
my head's at right now.
maybe you are diversified now, and it's none of my business, but I'd be looking at having my money in a few different things. But all of them assets, and real estate is definitely a good asset, although it's not your owned asset. It's, you have your foot in the door on it. Let's put it that way.
My foot is in the door.
Yeah.
But if they can't, if the real estate goes down,
Yeah.
then they can't pay me back.
If your mortgage becomes higher than
If
the
it's
value of the
upside
property,
down.
then you're upside down, we call it.
But-
So if you can keep
upside
renting
down.
it and generate income, you're halfway home.
Okay,
Yeah. The odds are it wouldn't go to zero, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it can't go to zero.
right.
George?
In that case, if the person can't pay the mortgage payments, and you have second mortgage, then it would be your property, correct?
Yeah.
But if it's a promissory note or it's a private mortgage
Okay.
or, that sort of thing, then I have second position.
Yeah.
I hold second position, but that doesn't really make a damn bit of difference if the value of that property goes to a point where it's upside down and they can't even pay me the interest on the original principal.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to come close to giving you any kind of legal advice on that. That's
Yeah.
where I would highly recommend you make a list of questions and contact a lawyer and that really knows real estate and say,
Yeah.
what happens in this scenario? Because it has happened without this market going on. Oh my God, we've been there.
Yes,
We-
yes, you said
We've
that.
definitely been there. So, yep.
Okay, all right. You're bringing a lot to light, Larry and Catherine.
Just please don't go into panic and darkness over this, because that's not what it's about. It's about getting educated.
Sometimes education is a little scary.
Scary, yes.
You know what? I love the way you guys are presenting it. I wish that the speakers on the video would just be a little bit slower and not talk so fast, because I'm having trouble taking it all in.
I'll give you a tip on that. So you can go to YouTube, look up Hidden Secrets of Money.
Yeah, I have that.
Mike
.com.
Maloney.
Yeah,
Okay, it's-
MikeMaloney.com.
Yeah, and it's episodes 1 through 10.
Okay,
And when you hit play, down on the bottom, there's the little gear symbol for settings.
oh, okay.
You can actually change the playback speed. You can play it like at half speed or 3/4 speed.
That's how my mind works. 3/4 speed.
Yeah. and,
That's what I do for reading books and stuff is I have them slow down.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and when I'm going through all these videos in the morning, I play some of them at 1.5 speed.
Oh, yeah, I
and
can't stand it, Barb.
and some others at 2. I play some at twice the speed because the guys
Wow.
talk so damn slow.
All I hear is brrrr.
I really appreciate you guys taking this extra time tonight. We're way over the limit, so we need to call it.
Somebody else had their hand up.
Oh, somebody else had their hand up.
That was just
I
Chewy.
think that was
Lauren?
Chewy.
Lauren, was
That
that
was
you,
just
Lauren?
Chewy.
No?
Oh, Chewy.
Anyway, if more questions come up, just write them down and we'll talk about them next week. All right. And if anybody has a burning question, send me an email or give me a call. That's absolutely fine, okay?
And don't lose sleep.
No,
No, please don't lose sleep.
no.
Don't lose sleep. It's, everything is going to be fine. It's going to be different.
Yeah,
I just, for us, I just want to come out of this change. There is going to be change. I want to come out of this change and a similar position that we're in now. Yeah, that's all it's about for us. It's not about becoming rich overnight or anything like that. It's just maintaining our lifestyle, what we like right now. And I mean, if we do it right, we should come out the other end of this change that we're going to go through. And absolutely fine.
Yep.
And I think anybody who's somewhat prepared for it will do okay. I mean, I think our lifestyles are going to change, but I think that has long been needed.
yeah.
I mean, we're guilty as the next person about living beyond your means, or, I mean, shit, just look at this freaking house we're in. I mean, talk about living beyond your means is just ridiculous. But again, this is a hard asset. That's something good to hold on to that, with the water frontage and that, I think it'll hold its value, whereas a lot of other things won't. So anyway, you
Just
can
keep doing the best you can and
Yep.
keep educating yourself. We're all in great shape.
We're all awesome.
Yeah.
We are, that too.
We're
You're
all
awesomer.
awesome.
You're awesomer.
I just have to tell people, poor Barb, she worked in a bank for years and years and retired from the bank. So this is all really tricky for her to wrap her head around. And I totally get that.
No kidding.
Totally.
No kidding.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's a stretch, a brain stretch.
Yeah.
So you just take your time, Barb, and just try to listen without without knowing.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yay! There's a plug for next Tuesday.
All right, there you go.
When I found out I put my $1,000 in the bank, it's not sitting back there in their vault waiting for me to take it out again, that it just disappears somewhere.
Yeah.
And when I go to a bank now and I ask for $5,000 and they go, what do you need it for? It's
Yeah.
like, none of your frickin' business.
That's
It's
my
my
money.
money. And you know what? I don't know if you guys have been to the bank and done any fairly large
Oh, they're
transactions
tough as hell.
lately, but when they
It's like it's
when they
their
say to you,
money
you
and
need
I'm
to
borrowing.
give us at least 24, preferably 48 hours notice to withdraw that much money. I'm like, what the frig are you
I was only
talking
asking
about?
for $5,000. Yeah. Yeah, you're right, Amber. They make you feel like you're borrowing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's theirs.
No,
And
they
then how
make you
dare
feel
we
like you're a crook.
Yeah. Like, how dare they ask?
We can't hear you, Lauren. There's something wrong with your speaker.
Oh, we're going now.
We're going now?
Bye.
Okay, bye. Mwah.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
We're
See you next
going
week.
to- Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Love you guys.
Love you too, Barbie. Bye, Amber. Bye, George. Love you too.
Bye.